Dr Cam Calder.
Mr Speaker, we're working and continue to work for a safer New Zealand. We're doing this through a concentration on preventive policing, through neighbourhood policing teams and public safety teams. This bill extends the application of the provision of the 2005 Act, as we have heard, to the 1st of July 2013 by deferring the expiry of the provisions relating to restrictions on the awarding of compensation until that date, the 1st of July 2013. It underlines our putting victims at the heart of the justice system. We are directing prisoner compensation to victims to put them, as I say, at the heart of the justice system. This is just another example of the huge improvements we have made and continue to make in the justice system in New Zealand. I commend this bill to the House.
Dennis O'Rourke.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I will be able to make only a brief call about this because I believe that this is a very simple bill, as the last speaker has set out, and most, I think, has already been said probably more than once. The bill simply extends the current regime for a further year while new legislation is developed, and on that basis the bill will be acceptable to New Zealand First and we will support it. Mr Speaker, the final legislation, when developed, must in the first place preserve the rights of prisoners properly held by them, including the right to compensation for accidents and any compensation which may be awarded for serious abuse while in prison, rare though that may be. But on the other hand, we must also ensure that there is no abuse by prisoners of that process and that entitlement to compensation. This does mean, therefore, New Zealand First believes that some special rules need to be developed to avoid inappropriate claims by prisoners while they are in prison. After all, that's an extraordinary circumstance, and some different rules should be developed for that purpose. Because there is potential for abuse of ACC processes by prisoners and of spurious or unmeritorious claims for compensation for abuse while in prison. So there needs to be an appropriate balance between prisoners' rights and the potential for abuse by them, and that's needed. And so that's what the new regime needs to do, and a good and proper investigation needs to be carried out for that purpose during the coming year. And so the extension of the sunset for that period is necessary and appropriate, and as I've already said, New Zealand First will support it. But there is another significant issue that needs to be investigated during that time, and that concerns the provisions enabling the transfer of compensation awarded to prisoners to victims generally, or alternatively to victims specifically. Because if the award of compensation to a prisoner is to be transferred generally to victims in a fund for that purpose, then that may not be acceptable. However, if the transfer of the compensation is to be for the particular victim of a particular prisoner, then that would be acceptable. Compensation of victims, where awarded, is of the highest importance, and I see that there is a clamour amongst the parties in the House to ensure that they're on the bandwagon to ensure the rights of victims, and New Zealand First is certainly amongst them, because as I have already said, that is a matter of the highest importance, to put victims in the centre of the position with regard to this particular matter. The devil, of course, is in the detail, as I've already indicated, and therefore there needs to be discussion about that. And in the end, there needs to be, in particular, a genuine and objective review during the next 12 months. And we are likely to find that we cannot let this legislation expire, and that we do need to sort out what the proper balance is as between prisoners and their rights and the rights of victims on the other hand. And in particular, we need to settle that question about whether the transfer of compensation should be generally for the victims of crime or should only be restricted to a particular victim of a particular prisoner. That's a debate that I particularly look forward to having, and that's a discussion which is going to be vital if we're going to reach any sort of consensus on these issues. So in the end, let's have that review. Let's make sure that it is genuine and objective, and before debating the substantive issues, we do receive the results of that investigation and pass legislation based on real results and a real, genuine and objective review. In the meantime, Mr Speaker, New Zealand First certainly supports this bill to extend the sunset of this legislation for another year while that review takes place.
Dr. Jackie Blue.